now a long pass, Allman under the penalty box. He's got a breakaway. Backhander scores! Corbin Allman. Jacob Dvorak, strong pass down the ice. Stillman into the pass zone. In front, Geeky. Backhander. What a save by Howe with the glove. What a marvelous save. Low glove stop on Connor Geeky, one of the best players in the Western Hockey League. Intercepted. The pass of a 2-on-2 short-handed the other way. Back chance over the line for Whitehead. Right side centers it. Score! And Zach Shantz deposits that centering pass from Braxton Whitehead into the back of the net. It's the Pats' 7th short-handed goal as a team this season. Corner Aremba whacks it around to the near side for Gibson. Or the Regina Pats. Gibson in front. One-timer scores! Ty Spencer! Big game Ty strikes. Second of the game for Ty Spencer, his 17th of the season.
Welcome to Pats Cast, the unofficial Regina Pats podcast. It's episode 163, February 4th. Another warm, unseasonably warm, rainy Sunday night. Hey, Kevin.
It's spring in February. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
What do you say? Like you look outside and there's just a few snowbanks here and there, and it's muddy and dirty and slushy and sloppy. It's basically March in February.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I think
especially for Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I think we'll take it. It's not minus 30 again. So.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to get moisture for the farmers one of these days. So hopefully we get something simple and nothing too crazy coming up here.
Yeah, I'm sure there's always a spring kind of dump, right? There's always one last gasp.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so it was an interesting week this week for the Pats. I mean, I don't know if we expected 9-1 on Wednesday, but I don't think we expected a win. But yeah, 9-1 was maybe
that was not a good game.
No.
I don't know what else to say about it, but that was not a good game. Saskatoon's had the Pats number for much of the season.
Yeah.
And that was not a good game. They scored 3 goals in each period. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like the Saskatoon game 2 weeks prior. Like,
yeah,
just had not much oomph there.
There was no pushback, no anything. Yeah. It was just one of those show up, lace them up, skate them up, and that's it. Go home.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. But I mean, Saskatoon is a wagon. They're really rolling, but just a 9-1, like. It's unfortunate. I mean, there's not much to say about the game.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good at all. But
just like
Saskatoon pulled off another win today at home, and they're 21-1-1 at home.
Here you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're 8-1-0-1 in their last 10. So yeah, they're rolling.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to the playoffs, that's another story.
Yeah,
but they're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, I mean, like today, who was in there? Brandon was in there. Yeah, Brandon. I mean, they only beat Brandon 3-1, so it's not like they're blowing everybody out of the water, but they are blowing the Pats out of the water. And
yeah,
like
they have the Pats number really bad lately.
And like we said last week, good thing we're done with Lethbridge. Well, we're done with Saskatoon.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Bright spot of the game, Corbin Allman.
Yeah.
Nice goal.
Yeah, one bright spot like the prior Saskatoon game. Allman, real nice breakaway goal coming out of the penalty box. And then he had another breakaway chance that he almost scored as well. That would have been nice to see him get a couple.
Yeah.
But no, he gets one, so that was nice. Real nice.
Stop the bleeding for a couple minutes, not even 2 minutes. Made it 6-1, and then Kimball Wade scored like
a minute and a half. Yeah,
minute and a half, 2 minutes later. It was yeah. But that game's done. We're done with that one.
Yeah. yeah, not much to say about that. I mean, we weren't expecting much out of that, and we didn't get much, unfortunately. Yeah. I guess on to Swift Current. This is
Good idea.
I thought this was a winnable game. Not that it wasn't winnable, but the first period, no scoring, but it was one of the best periods I've seen all season, just from a play standpoint. Both teams going back and forth, 15 shots. Swift Current, Regina had 12. Like it was a good end-to-end action.
End to end, it was physical. Both goalies
Yeah.
made some big saves. It was exciting.
Yeah.
Compare the first period of that game to the Saskatoon game.
Oh.
It was a totally different Pats team for the first period.
Yeah. Yeah, they really came out physical, and Swift Current wasn't too. They didn't
seem
about
too.
that.
Yeah, they didn't seem too keen on being hit.
Yeah, and I think the Pats,
especially one certain player.
Yeah, I think the Pats maybe got away from that a little bit as this game wore on. And I mean, you can't. I'm not saying you can't play that physical for a full 60 minutes, but that's a grind to play that physical. But yeah, it was too bad that they couldn't.
It seemed like no matter how, if they didn't play as physical, they seemed to get away from the game plan of the first period as the game wore on.
Yeah, and I mean they had chances. They just couldn't buy a goal. It seemed.
Yeah, and Reed Dick played really well.
He did. Yeah, no, yeah.
So he made a couple really ridiculous saves. So
yeah, no, nothing. Not to take anything away from him at all. Obviously, this is kind of what Swift Current was looking to do. They went out and brought in some guys, and they said, okay, well, our team, hasn't been healthy all season. Once our guys get healthy, this was our year, right? Reed Dick's 19. You got Matthew Ward's 19, stuff like that. So they're kind of banking on this team kind of finding their legs here in the second half and trying to make a run. And I mean,
find a formula to win some playoff games.
Yeah, I mean they didn't look outstanding. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, I totally get you.
Skill, yeah, they had chances. They scored some goals, but I mean, they didn't look like Saskatoon, right?
Not even close.
No, like this game was winnable. The Pats were in it the whole game, right?
Yeah. Even when they weren't, they were. Like they just couldn't buy a goal, and then it just kind of it seemed like it deflated them as the game went on.
Yeah, they just couldn't maybe keep up that pace that they really came out with in the first period.
Yeah, well, they had 12 shots in the first, and they only had 14 the rest of the way. So that kind of gives you the tail of the tape there.
Yeah, and you look at the other side of things. Howe played well, real well. 3 goals on 39 shots. Can't really argue with that at all.
And the fact that Swift Current had 7 power plays and the Pats were able to kill off all 7.
Yes.
That takes away any kind of momentum too. Like when you get into like past 5 power plays,
yeah,
you're starting to show time, and the guys that are playing all the extra time on penalty killing don't have a chance to get the offense, and then they're playing catch up.
Yeah, they're wasting, quote unquote, wasting their legs on PK.
Good,
right?
Good on them for killing all 7 though, which is nice to see.
And another thing, they kept all the big guns off the board, right? Like, yeah, Clark Caswell, he's got 14, but I mean, Zach Turner's got 4, Ty Copeland's got 8. Like, they kept the Geeky and the Wards off the score sheet. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, that's a positive there, but yeah, it was just unfortunate. You really wanted this game, but
yeah,
it was
for sure. And in the third period, those the 2 quick goals, that was definitely the nail in the coffin for the Pats, though.
Yeah.
It's like scores. And as I was typing the goal for the recap for Dante, they scored again. I'm like, they got the 3-0 lead. I'm like, not tonight. It's not going to happen tonight.
Yeah, I didn't. As well as they did play, you could just tell that a comeback just didn't seem to be in the cards.
No, they couldn't buy a goal, and the offense just wasn't quite there.
Yeah, it was there, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, they just couldn't get it. I think maybe Reed Dick got in their head a little bit because he was coming off a shutout the previous game. I think. Yeah, he has back-to-back shutouts now, so
definitely.
He's playing the way he needs to play for them.
to get rolling.
And unfortunately, the Pats couldn't get going, and 3-0, third time Pats shutout this season.
Yeah, I mean that's not the worst stat. Only 3 shutouts this year so far. But yeah, maybe Swift Current starts to get some momentum here. Starts to get rolling, and then maybe they can make some noise in the playoffs. But yeah. All right. Anything else from that game?
No, I think not much else to really say.
No, I didn't talk any.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't talk to any players after the game. It's like, 3-0. They don't really. Yeah. What do you really ask them? Right? Yeah. I talked to Brad, but yeah, he wasn't disappointed by the game. It just, he was just like, hey, they played well. It was nice bounce back from Wednesday.
Yeah, the effort was there. They just couldn't buy a goal, and then the too quick in the third. That was it.
Yeah,
they just didn't have enough mojo or whatever to get going to get 3 in the last 15 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, as much as this team has been pretty good offensively in the third period, that just wasn't happening that night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll move on to Sunday. Now this is kind of the opposite of Friday.
Yes, it was pretty interesting.
You get the opening goal, that's nice to see. The Pats haven't scored an opening goal in a while, I don't think, or not as much.
It's not very often.
No.
They're usually down early a lot of games.
And you're chasing that game, right?
Yeah.
But this obviously turned into an offensive game. Red Deer gets a couple. Then and the penalties again. Six power plays for the Pats, 5 power plays for the Rebels. It's an interesting situation there.
We'll get into that a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Actually, going back to that first one was a power play goal. So you get a power play. You're less than 3 minutes into the game. You get a power play, and it's like, it might be one of these games, right? And but Spencer, like we say, what can we say again about him? He's just rolling. A nice pass by Howe and a nice one-timer, and he gets you on the board. Just big goals for him.
He's becoming very, very clutchy. Captain Clutch. I don't know. That's already been used. We got to figure out something else for him. But yeah, he's starting to score a lot lately. He's really stepped up a lot as a 19. I think this is what they were hoping for all year, and now it's finally kicked in.
Yeah.
And hopefully he continues on.
Definitely. And then so you get that opening goal, but then you're in the hole a couple. Couple goals that real nice tips. Both were tipped.
The first one, it looked like it was going to go 5 feet wide, and he tipped it, brought it back. It was just, I thought it was going in the corner, and it was in the net. I'm like, what? How did that go in?
And I think the second one, Howe was looking around where'd the puck go? Where is it? And it's in the back of the net.
Yeah.
He had no clue where it was. So yeah, that was a tough to give up. Not to give up those ones, but tough on Howe. He's not going to make those saves on those ones. Just
no.
It is what it is. And then I guess I don't know if you want to talk about the penalty, the next penalty.
The no penalty that ended up being a major
and a game misconduct.
I don't know what the referees were thinking, but man, Wilson got 5 in a game for kneeing. He's barely hit hip to hip, maybe.
Yeah, it looked like
might have hit hip to hip,
to leg, hip
to leg, hip to leg.
I
don't know. Fanatic played dead and left the game for a while, but then he was back out there.
Looking
I don't know if he was out there.
Yeah,
he was fine. He might have been wounded at that point in time, but he recovered pretty quick.
Yeah, it was clearly a high leg into the hip area where you got padding. It wasn't a knee-on-knee situation where you're like, ooh, that wasn't good, right? Like this.
Yeah, and the Pats showed the replay 4 or 5 times, and it looked like it was hip to hip.
Yeah,
it was definitely not knee-on-knee, but
and the refs even convened, and then they still called it a 5-minute major.
They probably couldn't. They probably didn't see it. like a few of the penalty calls during the
There
game
was
that were called by players or coaches on the one bench.
yeah, there was a lot of yelling coming from that bench tonight.
Lots of yelling from Red Deer. It was almost every whistle there was yelling.
Yeah,
It was weird.
You're up a goal. This was 7 minutes to go in the third period. You're up a goal. The puck is in the Pats' end, and there's kind of just a scrum against the boards. Like, you're killing time in the offensive zone, and the Red Deer bench is yelling at the refs to blow the whistle. Why?
It was
Like,
weird.
They just yell to yell. It seems like they were just complaining. The ref was over there quite a few times talking to the coach. Like,
Yeah.
like it was
especially Pateman. Pateman seemed to be the one that was talking to them mostly.
yeah, it was odd. So, and it's not like it was coming from the Pats bench. You could clearly tell it was coming from the Red Deer bench.
Oh yeah, you could definitely pick out the one coach's voice. It was really prominent.
Yeah.
Usually when you hear Brad yell,
You can tell Brad.
It's
Yeah,
Brad or Ken.
I
But
don't think
this
Ken
was
yells too much.
No, but you can tell their
Yeah.
voices because we hear them all the time. But
Yeah.
this was a very prominent yelling voice from Red Deer's bench. I'm not sure if it was the head coach or what, but it was
Yeah.
really loud and really prominent.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really get it, but
And we're probably in the right spot upstairs in the press box to hear it.
yeah, because
So-
we're their end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. But I mean, whatever, it is what it is. 5-minute major. Chance scores the shorthanded goal though, tie it up. A nice little play. He drops it to Whitehead, and he goes to the net, and both Red Deer defenders go to Whitehead, and Chance just goes to the net and makes a nice play. Like,
Yeah, even when Whitehead backhand or they did the pass to Chance, both guys were still looking at Whitehead. It's like they didn't even avert their attention as Chance buried it.
yeah, so that was interesting. It was a nice little play. But then you come out into the second, so that penalty carried over to the second period, and Lind was able to score one right at the end of the power play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you give up one and you score one, so you're even on the 5-minute major. You can't argue with that whatsoever.
But you're down 3-2 early in the second.
3-2. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
No. Yeah, and then Tanner Howe gets on the board. There's a guy that needed
Got
one.
off the Schneid. Got
Yeah.
off the Schneid finally.
6 games without a goal.
He was getting some points here and there, but no goals.
Yeah, he was doing some, his usual thing, like complete game. I asked Brad about him. Yeah, he hasn't scored in a while, but what does he still bring to this team? And Brad was just like, yeah, his complete game. He's doing everything right still, and whatever. Just it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting how there was assists on that goal because it looked like their defender passed it right back to Howe.
it was clearly a pass from the defender right to Howe.
Now maybe he didn't have complete control of it. That's why there was assists. But you can't go by the assists on a lot of these games, anyways. So.
No.
But yeah, it was nice to finally see Howe get off the Schneid. It was a nice goal.
Yeah, it was a nice snipe top corner.
Yeah.
He'd gone 6 games without a goal, and then he had 1 goal in that game, and then it was a previous 6 games as well. So really, he'd only had 1 goal in 13 games.
Yeah.
So
he had a little bit of a rough stretch there, but he was still getting assists.
Yeah,
still pretty much the best PAT player every game.
Yeah,
give or take half a game here and there, depending on the opponent.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like he hadn't scored, but he was still looking good out there. Like, he blocks how many shots and takes all those key face-offs.
Kills penalties, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
He's Pat's MVP for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and then, I mean, not much else in the second for goal scoring, but then you get into the third and you give up the first one 16 seconds in, and Brad was not happy with that one.
No.
He said, you got some, key guys out there, and they give up a goal right off the hop.
Yeah, it was such a weird goal. Like, it was everybody seemed like all the Pats were on the one side, and the puck just kind of got to you, Chaz, and in the net.
Yeah.
Can't leave him alone. Can't give him any time.
No, not a great start, and then you give up another one, and it's 5-3. and you're thinking
another one to you, Chaz.
Yeah.
And I looked at you and I said we could be done. I basically wrote the Pats off, but they proved me wrong, and I'm happy they did.
Yeah. Ty Spencer comes back, another key goal, right? You're down 5-3. You go to your main man, and not only it was a nice goal, it was what a great pass by Gibson.
Beautiful pass.
He went from the boards all the way to almost to the far dot. Sauce
right on the tee.
Yeah.
It was beauty. It was such a nice pass.
Definitely.
Nice play all the way, for both players. It was nice.
Yeah, and another nice
one of the nicer one-timers this year for the Pats.
Yeah. And then you kind of get rolling there. And then the next goal of the period for the Pats, Zach Moore, he scored from behind the net.
Yeah, the puck ended up on the back of the net, and him and the defenseman had chipped at it or hacked at the net, and it popped over off of Stoser and in.
Yeah,
it was
wow,
bizarre. Those never happen for the Pats. I was saying to you last game that the Pats don't get any breaks. They never get breaks. I don't know if it was a break.
Oh, totally.
a goal is a goal.
Yeah, because they both just hacked at the puck, and it just popped up right over the net and right off Stosa's back and in.
Yeah, up over the net, off the back and in.
Yeah, you're
that's something that happens to the Pats all the time. Just the bad break goals.
Yeah.
Or the lucky bounce goals. Never happens for the Pats. Until there. It was nice.
Yeah, and then the next one, it's almost the same thing. You kind of just, not a lucky break, but just a Remba just wires one off the crossbar, and he just goes to the net, and the rebound comes right to his stick. Everybody's looking the wrong way, and boom, it's in the back of the net, wide open net, right?
That doesn't happen to the Pats. That never happens for the Pats. It was nice. It was nice to finally have it happen, and
yeah.
They hit the crossbar and actually made a nice noise upstairs. Usually you don't hear it, but it was like tink, and then it was in the net.
Right back on a stick and in the net. So, I mean, a couple nice breaks there, and then you're thinking, okay, can you get out of here with a win, a regulation win? But unfortunately, Uchez completes his hat trick, and just as the goalie come out, I don't think the sixth man was even in the play yet.
According to the stats people, he was off the ice for 3 seconds.
Okay.
So he just got to the bench.
Yeah.
And it was in the net. Just
Yeah. But, and then Red Deer kind of had a little bit of run with the puck after that. And you're like, we both said to each other, we got to get out of this. We got to get this to overtime, right?
Got to survive and get to overtime. We need at least a point.
Yeah.
No points, no chance.
Yeah. The playoffs chances are getting a little slim. We gotta
games are starting to run out. There's still 19. There's still lots of points available, but they gotta do get a lot of catching up to do.
Mm-hmm. Gonna need some help too as well. But so getting out of regulation there and into extra time, secure 1 point, and then overtime. Overtime was pretty exciting. I thought it was pretty decent. Red Deer
it had some pretty dull moments. Both teams brought the puck out and went back.
Red Deer had some chances, and then they coughed up the puck there, and Regina had one chance, and they almost buried it. And then it just, did the old thing, and then off to the shootout, unfortunately. But hey, shootout's the shootout, right? And you look at a guy like Howe getting one in the game, and then getting
the insurance goal in the
insurance
shootout.
Goal. Yes.
Whitehead, nice little tuck.
Yeah,
top shelf.
He had another one. We were pretty sure that was the last time Pats beat Red Deer. He had the nice backhand right up top to win, or I think was that the winner, or maybe that was one of the goals in the win, anyways. But it was nice to get the second point. Pats really needed that.
They needed it because they couldn't go over on the weekend.
No, giving up, the Swift Current game, which was a tough one, but to come back on, a Sunday, they got the Saturday off. Red Deer was playing a 3-on-3. These are the games you gotta really key in on.
Key in on for sure.
Take advantage of them having, a tough schedule. And it seems
early afternoon game and stuff like that. So
it seems like Regina and Red Deer play tight games no matter what. Like it's been the last, I bet you this season and the previous two have really been tight games no matter if they're in Red Deer or in Regina. It's just been really good. One, maybe a 2-goal game.
They seem to match up really well.
Yeah.
Even though Red Deer statistically
Is a much better team than
standings
Regina.
are better, but the Pats play the rough and tumble game. And maybe if they played more games against teams like Red Deer, maybe they'd be higher in the standings.
Yeah.
Instead of dealing with the catastrophic games against Saskatoon.
Yeah, right. But it was just nice to see some exciting hockey. Like the Friday and Sunday's games were both, like we said, Friday was one of the best periods I've seen all year. And like there's been some duds. Like there's been a couple Moose Jaw games here that have just been like, this is not exciting. And like it's Regina Moose Jaw.
Yeah. There's been a few like that. But
right.
Today's was nice and loud. The crowd was into it.
Yeah. I think there was lots of kids there today.
Yeah.
That always helps the noise level. And the Friday, I don't know what the attendance was on Friday. Maybe not as good as Sunday here, but I mean, it was a real good game, I thought, even though they lost 3-0. It was just
complain about that one.
No, not at all. Right. So
one thing about Sunday's game is neither goalie had a stellar performances statistically. Stoser stopped 16 of 22, and Howe stopped 23 of 29. Like you can't really blame the goalies for many, if any, of the goals. It just seemed like the teams took advantage and scored when they needed to score.
Yeah, like I said, like the first 2 Red Deer goals were nice tips. The Spencer goal, the first power play goal, you're not stopping that. Chance is left wide open in front of the net. He goes upstairs.
And he hit the net, and he got it in the net instead of missing the net. Like, was that Friday that he just missed the net?
I think so. Howe was a nice wrister right in the top corner.
Yeah.
The second Spencer goal, another one-timer on the power play. Like those are tough to score. The Moore goal, like how are you going to stop that one? You can't. And the Uremba goal, like none of those are on Stoser at all.
No, like it was one of those games where defense didn't matter. The goaltending didn't have a chance.
Yeah, it was just whoever could score, who was scoring last.
Pretty much, yeah. And it ended up going to a shootout.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, it isn't great for the goalie stats, but
it's terrible for the goalie stats. And Red Deer, they're averaging like overall, I think less than 3 goals against the game, and they allowed 6 plus the shootout goal. So
they are pretty stingy defensively. Yeah, they're giving up 137. I don't know if that's including tonight's game or not, but that's second in the conference only to Saskatoon. So 137 in 48 games. So that's
144. It's 144 and 49 now.
Okay, so that's basically 3 a game, right?
Yeah, 2.94, and the Pats doubled that tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Or today, this evening, afternoon, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so I mean, Stoser is the backup, but his stats are still pretty good. Woodsky's really been hot for them, but he can't play every game. So the Pats,
and both played Saturday night. So
both did play Saturday night. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So maybe the Pats took an opportunity on a Stoser that hasn't played a ton as much lately, because I think he's kind of he was injured there for a bit too, and I think Woodsky kind of took the starter's role there.
Yeah, and he ran with it.
Yeah, he was just goalie of the month for January. So, all right, anything else from you on this game?
No, it was exciting. Yeah. Didn't like the officiating both ways. It was just there's some really questionable calls everywhere. The major not good, but it is what it is. Happens.
Yeah, it's not always perfect, but Pats are able to come out with a win. So
the human factor of junior hockey.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a human factor of all professional and amateur sports.
Yeah, all right. With that, then we'll go to some interviews. We got Herauf and then Spencer and Howe. I was hoping to get Gibson, but he went on radio, so hadn't talked to him yet this season, obviously. But I talked to Spencer a lot lately, but Gerald Davis wanted him, and so talked to him again. I mean, he is kind of the man of the the last month kind of thing. So good to hear from him. And then Howe, haven't talked to Howe in a while. So talk to him, ask a couple questions about top prospects as well. So we'll listen to them now.
Like, what happened? The offensive explosion against aren't they one of the toughest defensive teams in the league?
Yeah, they play real good structure. They play real solid D zone. We got them on a 3-on-3. But Swift Current game yesterday, we lost 3-0, but we created lots of chances. Their goalie has just been playing really hot. So I just think that's one of those things where we just got to go back and just really, is it us or is it them? And we're generating enough chances. We just weren't finishing them tonight. So it was good to see us on the other side of it.
But halfway through the third period, 12 shots on goal. Were there chances that just didn't count as shots on goal?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure. Sometimes those shots on goal are a mystery to me. But it's like for us, I think the biggest thing for us in the third period that we can't start the period like that. We did not look ready to go whatsoever. We're a 3-3 game. It was us, and that's I guess for anything we really talked about after the game. And you don't want to be negative after a win like that, but. The start of the third period was completely unacceptable. The way that we handled it, and
Tanner Howe back on the score sheet with a goal. He hasn't scored a ton lately, but what's he still bring to the team?
Tanner Howe does everything. He kills penalties. He plays against the best players all the time. The details in his game. I think just the overall compete every single night. Like he's never skating around not being physical. So if he's not playing, he has a B game. He has a C game too that I think is pretty good. And I think we've been getting his B game here a little bit lately too much because he's a real important piece to our team. But his B game's still better than most people's A's.
He doesn't take a shift off, does he? Every game, every shift is important.
Yeah, and that's why he's our captain. That's why we want all our players, because everyone's not going to have their best night. You're not always going to be able to score, but you need to be able to be effective and help your team win if you're not having your best game. And Tanner Howe seems to help our team win, and when he's not having his best game.
Do you think he got any advice when he was out at the top prospects game? Maybe, into his game and what scouts are looking for?
I think he's got lots of advice with that way. I think the biggest thing that he's learning from those top prospects games is just learning that he belongs in that top echelon of players. But I think the biggest thing with Tanner is just him getting to be with that group of people, with those elite people, and that's where I believe he belongs.
You guys 1 goal, 0 goals, and then the toughest team in the league, you score 6 goals.
Yeah, it was obviously it's a little hard balancing that out, but I'm proud of how we handled it. We kept positive, came out strong. In the third period there, our first shift, maybe we could have been a little bit better.
So what turned it on? You guys only had 12 shots halfway through the third, and then the last half and the overtime, away you win.
Yeah, you know what? We've been kind of battling that for a while now. We've had a little rough starts in our third periods, but every single time we do have a rough start, it's what we say on the bench that carries us through, and that balances it out. And I'm proud of how hard we came out after that.
You watch the standings, you're all aware of it, obviously. And how does that motivate you to know that you got to get desperate now?
Yeah, we're obviously really aware of where we are right now, but that we use that as motivation. We've been checking, seeing how many points we're out, but we got to take every game as if it's a playoff game. And it doesn't matter how we play. It's at the end of the night, it's getting the 2 points.
Yeah, what's up with Red Deer? It seems like no matter where you guys are in the standings, the last probably 2-3 seasons here, it's always a tight game.
Yeah, they got a really good team. They're physical, they're big, but they're hard. They play hard. And we need to match how they play, and if we don't match how they play, they're gonna stomp us. And that's how we've taken every game. We've had a little bit of success against Red Deer, and it's kudos to our guys, but it's just another team that we need to make sure that we're beating.
It seemed on Friday you guys came up really physical and maybe lost that. Is that maybe one of the issues that kind of let that game get away from you on Friday?
Yeah, it kind of shows how when we are physical, how much it kind of plays into our game. When we have our designated hitters who go out and hit, obviously it brings a little energy and motivation, and that's what we need.
What's up with Red Deer and you guys in tight games here?
Yeah, it seems like we've went to overtime with a lot of them, but I think we kind of play a little bit of the same style of game. We play hard and physical and North hockey, so I think maybe that's why.
Do they bring out a better game in you guys with the way they play physically?
Yeah, I thought we came out good and kind of let off a bit there, but we're one of the best third period teams, and we show that each and every night, so it's good to see us come back again.
On Friday, you guys came up pretty physical, but it seemed like maybe that you lost a little bit of that as the game went on. Is that maybe one of the reasons why you weren't able to pull the win on Friday?
Yeah, I think it's something we got to work on, is playing a full 60 minutes, not kind of letting off for 8 minutes and letting them score 2 goals. So I think playing consistent with how we play for 60 minutes will help us a lot.
For you personally, the goal, haven't had scored much lately, but I asked Brad, what's he still bringing to the team? He's just a complete player. He doesn't, obviously he wants to get on the board, but he hasn't lately. So what do you think of your game lately?
Yeah, it's good. I remember how to score, which it feels nice. But I thought I've been getting chances, just couldn't capitalize, and luckily tonight I capitalized on a couple goals. So it's nice to see it go in. But yeah.
And go to the Top Prospects game. Was there any feedback on your game that you could take away from there?
Just kind of being consistent with my game, not trying to switch it up. Even if I'm not scoring, stick to my habits, playing hard, playing a solid game, and just not trying to switch things up because I can't score or whatnot.
All right. Yeah, so that week's wrapped up. 2 points. Not the most ideal situation where the Pats are sitting in the standings. We're 8 points back of Prince Albert now. So it's
6 points back of Prince Albert. 6 points.
Oh yeah, sorry. I gotta refresh.
That's a 42
go.
in 30 and 49, and PA has got 48 in 50. So Pats have a game at hand on PA, but they're still 6 points back.
Yeah, and you got to jump.
Calgary has got 49, and they've got 2 games at hand on the Pats. So
yeah, okay, there we go. Yes, I had this. My page has been open since the game this afternoon, so the standings have changed.
you need to go to the media site. That one updates faster.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to jump PA and you got to catch Calgary. 7 points back and 2 games in hand for Calgary. So that's
Pats play them twice too. So
yeah. So there's 2 4-point games.
they just gotta plug along and keep winning. They can't afford to lose many games. They need to figure out how to win on the road. They got the big, huge U.S. trip. Some of the U.S. teams have been stomping the heck out of other teams, but the Pats haven't played against them, so the styles might match up really well, or they might get totally obliterated. Like, we don't know until they play them.
Definitely. But yeah, like you said, Calgary 4-point games coming right up this week, right? You got Medicine Hat and Calgary Tuesday, Wednesday.
And then the quote unquote trap game on Saturday against Edmonton again.
We haven't seen Edmonton in a while, but it has been pretty with Edmonton.
Oh, the Oil Kings.
Yeah. But yeah, like Medicine Hat, that's gonna be a tough one. So
yeah, because Medicine Hat they took it to the Pats. I think the last time they were there. So.
Yeah. Pats did squeeze one out in the shootout, or was that the overtime one? Overtime. Yeah. Last time Medicine Hat was here, so
But the last time the Pats played in Medicine Hat,
I know it was
not pretty.
Yeah, that was the 8-0 game. Yeah, November 22nd. Yeah,
that was a long time ago.
Yep,
a long time ago. They're a little different. Pats are a little different now, so maybe we'll see. Hopefully, they can keep their magic from the previous game against them here. Take it there.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing I would say is too bad Calgary wasn't the first game, because that's the game you need for sure. You have to play that back-to-back, and I'm sure Calgary isn't playing on a Tuesday night.
Probably not, no.
I don't have their schedule up handy here, but I highly doubt that they're playing on a Tuesday night. So that's a tough one, but I mean, whatever. You got to deal with the schedule.
Their next game is the Pats. So
yeah, you got to see some sort of decent effort in Medicine Hat. Maybe you can squeak out a point or something, but you just gotta. You don't want to look ahead past Medicine Hat to that Calgary game, because it's obviously a little more important than the Medicine Hat game. But you still got to keep,
They need to get 2 points in Calgary. That's That's the bottom line. No matter what they do, if they don't get a point in Medicine, whatever, but they need
Yeah.
to get 2 points in Calgary. It would be nice to get 2 in Medicine, but they need 2 in Calgary.
Because if you give up 2 to Calgary, that puts them at 51. That puts you 9 points behind them.
Yeah.
And with still 2 games, Calgary would have 3 games in hand.
Yeah. By that point
So-
in time, 3 games. So
Yeah.
they need to beat Calgary no matter what. And
In
Calgary's coming off
regulation.
an 8. Yeah. And Calgary's coming off an 8-1 win over Edmonton. So
Yeah, see, they came off a big win Saturday night before the Pats played them on that Sunday.
Yeah.
Was it Brandon? I think they beat like 8-0.
yeah, they beat 8-0.
And then we were thinking like, ooh, man, the Pats better show up here on Sunday. And
Yeah.
they were able to squeeze that one out in the shootout or overtime.
Overtime.
Yeah.
If only they could have won that one in regulation.
in regulation, yeah, right, because 1 point is those.
But they still have 19 games left. They got to continue winning.
Yeah,
That's all that
definitely.
matters.
Oh, all
Can't
right.
let everybody else dictate where you end up. They gotta win.
Yeah, you can't rely on other teams to lose.
Yeah.
So
You lose too many, you're done.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
all right. Yeah, I guess anything else on the week upcoming?
No.
All right. I guess we should talk about these trade deadline.
Are we going to
things.
talk about? Well, we'll get to that. But are we going to
Okay.
talk about who we're really bad at keeping track of who we picked to score.
Yeah. Who you had?
I do remember that I picked
Moore.
Moore to score. I said in Saskatoon, but he did score.
Yeah.
But I didn't write it down. Chris wrote it down. Chris is doing renos and stuff like that in his house, and
I lost
the
it.
paper disappeared.
It's somewhere.
So we don't know. Yeah, it's not good on our part, but
Whatever. We don't have to keep track, but I mean, we'll throw them out there. Just trying to give some guys some love, right?
yeah.
But
Oh, one thing about Sunday's game, I just remembered. It was Ty Gibson's 200th career WHL game.
yeah,
Congratulations to Ty, and he had a great game. Probably
Yeah,
one of his
3
best
points.
as a Pat.
Yeah,
3 points.
definitely.
Beautiful pass on that the second power play goal. And congratulations to him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, he's kind of. I asked Brad about him too as well there, and heard his response on him and stuff. So he's filled the Parkerberg role pretty decently, right? So
Yeah, he's looked pretty well. He's got 10 points in 13 games with the Pats, so
and like
almost a point per game on defense.
Yeah, and
Playing
like
key moments, offense, defense, killing penalties, whatever. So
and he didn't have a lot of points coming here, right?
No.
So
totally different
Different
role in
styles,
Everett.
yeah.
Like their leading defenseman, I think, had like 19 points when they got traded here, or 20 points or something like that. So
yeah,
he's able to show off his offensive ability here, and he's running the top power play, killing
Mhm.
penalties and stuff like that. So
Yep.
getting lots
Definitely.
of ice time here.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So you want to pick, kind of the player of the week kind of thing.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's do our player of the week. Chris, you go ahead. Who is your player of the week for all three the 3 games? Who's your guy?
We
Who's your
talked
pick?
about that, changing it up this week, and I never really thought about it at all. So I don't know. I'm gonna pull this one out of my but
Who is the best Pat goal, and who is your best Pat on Friday? We won't talk about Wednesday anymore. Wednesday's done. It's off the board.
no.
Who is the
Pat
best
on
Pat on Friday? Sunday. I'm for Friday against Swift Current. I'm gonna say Howe. He had 8 shots. He was all over the place. He just couldn't buy a goal. A couple nice saves by Dick on him, and yeah, he could have got the Pats into it, but Reed Dick was ridiculous. Like they keep on hashtagging out there on the X, formerly Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on Friday. It was just I was just enjoying the game. Like it was just such a. I mean, obviously nobody stands out because nobody scored, but
Well, what about the goal? What about the guy that stopped the puck?
yeah, I guess there you go. Yeah, I'll go with that because he made some big saves too. Like that was one of his better games. I know I was listening to the pregame as I was coming to the game, and Dante was like, "We need some Calgary magic tonight," and he pulled it out, and it was right. Like he stood on his head. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
Made a couple spectacular saves too. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah,
also
third
quick
start of the
okay.
game, right?
Yeah. And Sunday, who is your pick for player?
I mean, it's kind of obvious. Spencer was like just huge goals, right? Like we keep saying, there's just timely goals, and I mean, there's lots of guys you can pick from, but I mean, I'm gonna pick the obvious one.
I'll pick Gibson because of the pass on
Yeah.
the second power play goal.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
Yeah, as soon as he passed that, I turned to you and said, "Holy!" Like,
It was right on the tee. Like
yeah,
for the
And-
Pats lately, their power play, like their passing is just not quite
yeah,
in
it's been
sync. Just
hit
a
and
teeny
miss.
bit off.
Yeah.
Not quite in the wheelhouse, just a little bit off, a little bit behind, a little bit in front. But that was such a nice pass, such a nice goal all the way around. So both
Yeah.
ties get our player of the game for Sunday.
Yeah, and that pass went through a couple sticks, Red Deer sticks, or past a couple Red Deer bodies, right?
Yeah.
They would be able to get a piece of it, and yeah, like I said, right on Spencer's stick and into the back of the net before he could blink. So, yeah, that's not a bad pick there. Like I said, Howe looked good again tonight. Could have picked him. I mean, Whitehead's been pretty consistent.
Whitehead was good. Aremba had a pretty good game.
Yeah,
Zach Moore played quite a bit, and he had a pretty good game.
yeah, goal and
I
assist
thought
for him.
I thought Temple played well, was held off the scoreboard, but it was one of his better games. He was.
Yeah, you
he
actually
seemed to
noticed
be out
him
there.
with the puck. Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed to be out there quite a bit, more than normal, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
seems like the coaching staff has a little more confidence in him.
Yeah, because some games, I know he's only 16, but you don't want to say he disappears, but you haven't noticed him a bunch lately, right? And so it's nice to see him, making some plays out there tonight. And yeah, like we didn't mention that in person at all, but I noticed him as well. That's definitely a key guy to kind of keep an eye on, because he needs to get going too. So
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's only 16.
Yeah.
It's good. It's gonna come eventually.
yeah, and I mean by going,
He's
in, like,
good.
get a goal here, get a goal there. We're not expecting a goal a game or a point a game here, right?
The thing with him, if maybe he's one of those guys that if he gets off the schneid, he might all of a sudden just start getting more confidence and scoring some goals.
Yeah.
More goals and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways,
he's a key part to the Pats' future, and
Definitely.
like I said, I noticed him a lot more today than I have in the last little bit.
yeah,
And
no.
watching it online, you can't really
Those away games are
focus
tough.
on that stuff.
Yeah.
Watching it
So.
live in house, you can actually see the different intricacies of their games and stuff. And he seemed like he was out there quite a bit more, seemed more involved, which was nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. So, with that, we should maybe move on to our next topic, the trades that we've kind of been putting off, trade talk. So, we should get to that and keep Keith happy here.
Yeah, give Hershy some love in here.
Yeah. So you kind of broke down a few years with a lot of deals. Yeah, and like obviously 17-18, that was massive, right? There was a lot of pieces there. And like you only did like the trade deadline.
Yes.
Like, there was obviously tinkering all season up to the trade deadline. Like Cale Fleury, that was a massive deal. You didn't include that one. I mean, that
No,
was
I
back-
just
no.
for that
Yeah.
one, I just did the deadline area deals, and it was a lot of deals.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But I don't know. I'm not sure what Keith was specifically wondering about. So we'll just talk about a few of the deadlines lately, and then we'll compare them to the rebuild trade of like specifically Suze Delev in comparison to these other guys.
Well, yeah, you started off with 1986. Like, go back to that big deal.
Yeah, 1986, one of the biggest deals probably in Pat's history. It was a pretty big deal. It was apparently, from what I was reading in the papers, it was starting off as a fairly small deal, and it ended up being a 5-for-5 deal. The Pats traded future NHLer Brent Fedek, Ken McIntyre, Garnet Kaziak, Kevin Kowalchuk, and Gerald Bizdell to the Thunderbirds. That's 5. There were 5 skaters, not prospects, not draft picks, because the draft wasn't around then.
Yeah, roster players.
Roster players. 4. Craig Andine, one of the best players in WHL history, ended up playing 2 seasons here. Ray Savard, Aaron Janelle, Grant Chorney, and prospect at that time, Frank Kovacs, who's now the Pats' all-time leading games played player, and like one of the Mr. Pats.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a massive trade. Anytime you have that many pieces getting dealt is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Right, and like you said, it's all except for one. It was all roster players. Like,
Yeah.
none of this draft picks. Oh, obviously can't at that time, and then and one prospect. Right, it wasn't a bunch of young kids for old guys. Right.
Yeah, and like I said, Fedek was a future NHLer. Played on the Crazy Eights line in Philadelphia with was it Lindros and Recchi, I think it was. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, then you go, another huge deadline was 99, right? Geared up for the Memorial Cup, right?
This was before the Memorial Cup. This was kind of like the trade away some guys to bring in some younger guys to build for the 01 Memorial Cup. And the trade deadline was until February 1st at that point in time, which I don't know why everything switched around. There was a few different years where it was in the Februarys, but the trade deadline now is, of course, January 10th.
Yeah, it's been pretty much there for a while now, right? So
yeah.
But you look at the names that the Pats moved out: Calder, Fedoruk, Stewart, Adams. Like those were, household names.
Yeah.
Right? And then future Winnipeg Ice general manager Matt Cockle.
The one trade, the Brad Stewart for Donald Chikalis and Ryan Jeremia and 2 draft picks. I never looked up the specifics on the players picked because they never really tracked that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of the draft pick the spots and where the players were drafted it doesn't make sense from back in that era. Mm-hmm. So there might have been trades of picks that they just didn't report. I don't know. It's just
even now it's getting better. People are really tracking this stuff now, like non-WHL people, and like trying to do the work for the WHL almost just so people know, right? Because people want to know which
Alan Caldwell.
Yeah,
Alan Caldwell doing all that work for the WHL that he doesn't get paid for.
No, and because people are interested, well, what pick got traded? Which one of your 5 fourth-round picks got traded, right?
What are the conditions on this trade?
On the conditions,
he's
right? Yeah,
trying to figure all that stuff out, and he's done a pretty good job. If you're trying to figure out who that is, and if you're on the X, formerly Twitter, it's @small@large. So look him up. He's got links to Google Sheets or whatever for draft picks and prospects and a few different things
and rosters and stuff. So
yeah, he's all into that. Into that stuff.
No, it's a key kind of resource.
It's a super key resource. It's something that the WHL should have on their website, but it is what it is. You can barely get the weekly report out of them. So
yeah, no, the Pats put out their own weekly report this past week.
Yeah,
kind of nice.
And then they finally put the weekly report out like a day and a half, 2 days later.
Yeah, I didn't even look because the Pats put their stuff out, so
it didn't matter anymore.
No. All right, and then so that was 99, and then 2001, right? Leading leading
up for the Memorial Cup. Yeah, that's when the Pats picked up Paul Elliott, Gable Gross, and Kyle Ladderbrook from the Blazers for Ryan Ainsley, Sean Jones-Perry, Paul Brown, and future considerations. No idea what the futures were. I'm sure Brent Parker, if he's listening, might be able to say what it was, but I have no idea. They actually picked up Scott Hartnell's rights, who he was in Nashville playing for the Predators at that point in time. Unfortunately, he wasn't wanting to come back or wasn't returned or whatever the deal was, didn't come back, which unfortunate for the Pats, but it is what it is. And then they picked up Blake Evans and Jeff Feniak from Tri-City for Joey Bastian, Sean Bell, Justin Decision, and a conditional second-round pick. So the Pats at that point in time, there was rumors. I believe there was talk that the WHL was worried about them not even making the playoffs, kind of thing, not being first place and that stuff.
Yeah.
So Parker had to blow up the future to get some stuff for the Memorial Cup run, and unfortunately, first round exit. And many people know what happened in the Memorial Cup. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But I mean, okay, so you're talking 2001 blowing up the team. Like, that's nothing compared to today's standards, right? Like,
Yes.
like, ooh, they moved, like you said, a couple picks for Hartnell. They got a third and an eighth and a first if he would have come back. So
Yeah.
a whopping 3 picks there. And then, the Bastian Bell, Lucian Dale and then a second round conditional pick. So 3 guys and a pick for 2 guys, right? These nowadays that's your average run of the mill Wednesday afternoon trade.
Like if that trade, like the Blake Evans deal would have been happening like this year, he probably would have got like at least 2 first round picks. Like he was coveted huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, that the deals compare, like it's 20 years. So
no, I know, right? I'm just trying to
lots has changed, but yeah.
I'm just trying to put it into terms, like
Exactly, yeah.
like you say those were big deals back then,
Yes,
right?
exactly, yeah.
So, and then moving on to the fallout from the Memorial Cup, right? You move a whole bunch of guys in 2004.
Yeah. One of the trades that really kind of still stings me a little bit is the Josh Harding when the Pats traded him to Brandon. They got a good goalie return, Dustin Slade.
Yeah, he was good.
Ryan
for some good
McDonald
stuff.
and a 3rd round pick. But Dustin Slade, if the kid could have kept it together, was an unbelievable goaltender. Like the dude would stop the puck. He could stop the puck. Would stop the puck. But unfortunately, he couldn't keep it together. Whatever happened, and the rest is history with him. And then the Pats ended up trading Chris Schlenker, a beloved player, for Perry Fall, Preston Mozowicz, good old Levi Lind, and a 2nd round pick. So that was a pretty big deal for back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20 years ago. That's 20 years ago. Schlenker is now reffing in the NHL.
Yeah.
Perry Fall didn't come back as a 20-year-old. Preston Mozowicz ended up being here for a year. Levi Lind played, I think, 3-4 years here.
Mm-hmm.
Was never a big name guy. He was like a 3rd liner. Nothing wrong with that, but yeah, one of those kind of trades. But man, I remember when Schlenker returned to the rink as a Raider. My friend and I were booing just because he was a former Pat. We booed.
Yeah.
Just because. I loved Schlenker. We booed him just because. And Rod Peterson was on the radio, and he was like, "Why are these guys booing him?" Stuff like that. So it was good. I enjoyed it. That was also the year the Pats acquired Kyle Ross and a sixth rounder for a 4th rounder in the next 2 seasons. So they ended up getting a pretty quality player from Regina in that deal. So he was a key piece for the Pats the next few years.
Yeah, he ended up being a 1st round pick, right? So, I mean, it didn't really work out for him in the NHL, but
no, that's Nick Ross. This is
Nick
Kyle Ross.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we'll skip the next one. We'll go to 15 when John Paddock kind of took over the reins here, and at the deadline, the Pats started wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
Some of the key guys,
even being in first place, right? So
yes, you can take that away if you want.
Yeah, like you move guys like Klimchuk and Burrows and Gay, but that was it was the grand plan, right? To get
and the previous management, Brent Parker and Chad Lang had the pieces there that Paddock was able to move. He had Klimchuk, he had Burrows, he had Hunt, he had Gay to move.
Mm-hmm. Right,
and that helped build the Pats up.
You've seen what was coming in Steel, right? That was kind of the key there. They peaked, maybe not. I don't want to say a year early in in 17, but I mean, you can't argue with a run to the final in 17.
And if they only would have known what was going on with the 18 Memorial Cup
That then,
at the deadline, then, yeah.
right. So, but I mean, the Burrows and Hunt deal for Hobbs, like Hobbs really came in and was a real good player, but you look at what Hunt did after moving from Medicine Hat to Moose Jaw, like he scored 50 goals in Moose Jaw, like that was a real good season. Yeah.
Yep.
As good as Hobbs was, it's like, ooh, he gave up a 50 goal score. But I mean, it is what it is. And then, you remind me of one thing here in the Connor Gay trade to Red Deer. They had to send a first as well with him to get Jake Lesician.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Connor Gay, a first, a second, and a seventh for Jake Lesician, and a fourth.
Yeah.
So he gave, as he was rebuilding,
buying.
he was buying and selling at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, Lesician turned out to be, an excellent player for the Pats, and then he ended up turning into Mr. 98 as well.
Yes,
so,
CB 98.
But yeah, I mean, so that was kind of like the start of the really wheeling and dealing, right? That's a lot of trades, a lot of picks getting moved here and there. And then into 18, obviously, I think that takes the cake for like number of assets moved. Like, and you're just looking at the trade deadline.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like how many got moved there.
And that's pretty much when the WHL changed the rule about trading 17s, 16s, and 17s and stuff. Right. That's pretty much not because just specifically because of the Pats, but Pats, Swift Current, Moose Jaw.
It's because of those three teams they changed the rules. Yep.
Yep. Because just the amount of trades, the amount of movement that the Pats did that year was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. They revamped half their team in a matter of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 moves. Yeah. Half the team switched at the deadline, or right near the deadline, and that doesn't include the Fleury deal and like the earlier ones. So
yeah, right. And then you even look at 18 when they did trade Lesician and Henry. There's a lot of moving pieces there, right?
Oh yeah.
You bring in Jaden Joseph, Ty Cole, and then you end up moving those guys again for even more stuff.
Yep.
So like that trade runs deep. Like
I'm gonna work on a trade tree for that one. I think try to figure out where everything ended up.
I had one going. I think I kind of trailed off on it, but I did have one going that year too.
Because that's crazy amount.
Yeah,
of
obviously
the
key one was picking up that first round of Swift Currents that Lethbridge owned. So, and getting Connor Bedard. So, but yeah, and then and then you got the Suzulev deal. Like that's just compared to these other deals, it's just like, whoa, that was a lot, right?
Yep. But if Keith was wondering like what the biggest assets moved for, or the biggest assets picked up, or something that the Pats never had, the Suzulev deal is by far the best.
Yeah, because it's the guy that wasn't going to be here, or
basically a nothing on the roster. Like no roster player moved out for 2 players, a prospect, a first, a third, and a fourth. And I guess there's a 6th that went the other way. But that's an unbelievable trade. Like for a rebuild, that's how you rebuild. The Pats have never really done a full rebuild like that. They never tore the team not pretty much right down to the bare walls, but it's pretty close. And the team is still kind of competitive. They've got some pieces still that if they want to move them next year, or if they keep them or whatever, good on them. I think Al's done a really, really good job with that so far.
Yeah, you just look at how much it's changed, like you said, in the last 20 years, like how much you can get for one player, right? Because you've only moved essentially three big players this year, and the team's still in a decent spot, right? So I mean,
I know they'd love to be a little higher in the standings, but they're not.
For sure.
They're not at the bottom. They're not bottom feeders.
No, they're competitive.
They're competitive. They're competitive, other than a few a few stinkers here and there, but I think a lot of
Yeah.
teams go through some stinkers. So
Oh, for sure. But yeah, like you said, just like when Suslov got assigned to Europe, it's just like, okay, he's gone. Like, you know, you'd love to see him come back and play, come back and get traded, whatever. It's just like being a little selfish, right? But
I 100% had written him off as not coming
Yeah.
back. I thought he was done.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he comes back and he brings that haul for the Pats. Like, he's been a little bit of a funk for Saskatoon. As much as Saskatoon is hot, he hasn't contributed a ton. Not that he needs to, though.
I don't know if he fits their style. He's a skill player. Saskatoon's got skill players, but they play a specific style.
Yeah.
Not really a run and gun style per se. They got the
They're-
fast guys, but they it's just a different style. They're not.
A little more defensive.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
can play run and gun when they want to, but
They're definitely a little more solid in their own end, right? As compared to like the Pats were last year, right? It was a little more freewheeling.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. So hopefully that answers some questions for Keith and everybody else who's wondering other big deals around the
And
trade
brought up some
deadline.
names that people might not have heard or forgot that actually play for the Pats. So
Definitely, right? Yeah,
I like bringing the history stuff in there too. So
definitely. All right. Well, with that, this is going to be a long show now with some interviews. Yeah, we're pushing. It's going to be over an hour today.
Oh, wow.
If you're still hanging on, yeah, we're at an hour. Plus, I got to edit in the interviews. So if you're still hanging on to this episode, thanks for listening this far and our history lesson of the day, courtesy of the Blue Liner.
it's going to be a short week for us for listeners because the Pats do play very, very quickly here. So
Tuesday, Wednesday, but yeah, hopefully
some people tune in and get a little history or whatever.
Definitely. So, but with that, if you got nothing
And
else, okay,
one
what
more
else?
thing,
Yeah.
we're looking to add a new segment to the show and keep an ear out. Hopefully next week or maybe the week after, because there's 3 games to cover and we did go a lot longer this time than we normally would.
Yeah.
But we're looking to add a new segment and keep an ear out for that. We'll definitely announce it when it happens.
Yeah, definitely. It's happening. We'll just figure out which show
When
it's
it
gonna
happens.
Yeah, when it pops up. But I think it's something that the fans will be really interested in. That's for sure. So
We're hoping anyways. We're hoping.
yeah, right. So something new and not just us rambling on about a team that lost 9-0 or 9-1 and or I don't know, maybe some people do like this history stuff. So that's some good stuff there from Kevin. So, but yeah. With that, we should get out of here and see you at the rink on Saturday against Edmonton. So have a good night, folks.
Have a good one.
Crowd on their feet. Here's your captain, Tanner Howe. 23 goals this season. Slowly works in. He scores! This game